Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of the SBK Betting Podcast, coming to you for the first time in December. It is the 5th of December. We're building up towards more the Christmas period and the thick of national hunt racing. And last week, we were pleased to see more winners for the podcast. TC landing with the mighty Sogino, 6-5, but a performance that befitting of a horse possibly you'd think destined for a champion hurdle. Will they change over to the fences? Will they stick to the hurdling route? We shall see, but a very good jump of a hurdler you could see there with Sergino. Delighted to see that. And then in second, a mighty run from Lump Sum, which Ross gave up as a 11-1 each way selection. And even though he was pretty headstrong, I think Dylan Johnson did pretty well with him all in all. He's serious talent indeed, and look forward to seeing where he might be ending up next. So champion hurdle picture a little bit more open than it has been in some years. And it'll be the question on whether we'll see Constitution Hill and the clash with Lostymouth at the Christmas hurdle time. All of that to look forward to. We also had the New Lion very confidently put up by TC. 6-4 on he went off at, but it was a good sight to be seen, and I think a horse to follow, as is one of my favourite ones, Skyjack Hijack, who delivered the six-timer in the 103 at Newcastle in the French Furs, and I'm afraid beat TC's selection, but I think he'll be happy that he had a couple of other winners, and I think we can all agree that that's an exciting prospect for a smaller yard, and we always like to see the smaller yards do well on this podcast. Well done to the Jenny Candlish team. Right, looking ahead to this weekend, we've got 3 races we're going to focus on, a couple at Sandown and 1 at Aintree, but before we get into that, SBK are extremely generous this weekend. We've got a 20% ACCA boost across all UK racing on Saturday. It's a minimum of 4 selections and will require the use to opt in. So make sure you avail of that 20% ACCA boost across all UK racing this Saturday. So without further ado, let's focus on this weekend's action. And we're going to start with the Henry VIII Novice Chase, this race at 150 on Saturday. And we've got the horse that is currently a 10-1 chance for the Arkle in Lord de Sud leading the way. He is for Dan Skelton, Harry Skelton. He put up a mighty performance when seen at Cheltenham last time. And he's a horse that has got maybe all the British hopes with the Arkle in mind. But there are 2 Irish raiders in here. Gordon Elliott's got Down Memory Lane, and he's also pitched in Touch Me Not. We've got Rubo having his first go of offences in this kind of company for Paul Nicholls and Harry Cobden, and Soul Icon makes up this field. So Ross, let's go to you first. 13-8 on for Lourdes de Sud. Are you a backer at that price?
I'm not, just simply because I'm not a backer of any novice around Sandown at that sort of price. I don't tend to back odds on, and I certainly don't tend to back odds on in novice chases. You know, I suppose if we're talking about the ACCA, he's the logical one to put in, and there's probably a few short price ones you could find this weekend. There's very little not to like. I think he's undoubtedly going to be a better chaser than he was hurdler. He'll like this ground. He was a low, fast jumper at Cheltenham. He was really impressive. You might well have the race set up too. I think there's going to be a bit of pace he can sit in behind, take him along, even though there's a small field. But just at the odds, I wanted to try and find something else. Down Memory Lane, I thought he got slightly overhyped by what he did at Navan because he beat King of Kingsfield. Well, you put anything in a battle with King of Kingsfield and they'll win because the runner-up is soft and finds a way to get beaten. He made a mistake at the last, but he does look promising. He's got plenty of upside. Rubo, I love, and I've seen lots of people say that he's not going to be as good over fences as he is over hurdles. I would have a even money bet with anybody that he'll be comfortably £5, if not £10 better over fences. He's like a little rubber ball. There's no way this horse won't jump fences, but there's 5 to 10 mils of rain forecast. That could take the ground just on the soft side, and this is a big ask on a chasing debut. But I think that shows the regard they hold him in. It'll be interesting to see how he goes, but I wouldn't really want to be getting involved. And then Touch Me Not, I just thought was overpriced. He's 14-1 with SBK. Maybe the traders have priced him up on his hurdling form, which was very moderate. He's 125 rated hurdler, but he's looked a revelation over fences, runner-up first start, and then at Punchestown last time, absolutely jumped from fence to fence. Probably the best novice chase performance I've seen for about the last couple of seasons. I was really impressed. He was very quick, very efficient, really knew what he was doing. Beat Farron Glory, of course, was a Grade 1 winner. He was a novice and run the Royal Bond. Franklin Glory had plenty of chase practice, and he absolutely minced him. The concern is Sam Ewing was on him that day. I think Sam Ewing is a really, really talented jockey. Jordan Gainford's on him here. I'm just not sold on Jordan. I think I've seen him a few times where I worry that the race gets away from him and develops around him, and he's reactive rather than proactive. And I think on this horse in a small field, it's set up for him to be proactive. So that's a minor concern, as is the 13-day turnaround. But given he's 14-1, he'll like the ground. This jumping test will suit him. I think they're going to have to come and pass him. So a tentative selection, but I thought Touch Me Not was definitely overpriced at 14-1 for all that Loda Sud does look like the most likely winner.
Yeah, Gordon Elliott, pretty long in this department. He's got some lovely novice chases, difficult to split them up, difficult to find the opportunity, but it will be a very interesting test at this early stage of the season to see where Loda Sud sort of belongs in amongst maybe not even the best of Gordon Elliott's novice chases, you would say, Ross?
I'm not sure. I was bitterly disappointed with Firefox last weekend. He looks to me like he could be tripless because he should have had the pace to go for that race easier than he did. Maybe Keith Donoghue getting to know him, you give him an excuse. I wouldn't be surprised if these two here actually are his two best 2-mile novices. I sort of mentioned the podcast on Tuesday. I'm not so sure that the Irish novices, either hurdlers or chasers, are actually as scary at this point of the season than they have been for maybe the last 5 years. So if I was a British trainer, I'd be starting to get excited, starting to think that maybe I've got a chance of competing come the spring festivals.
Yeah, and I'd say Dan and Harry Skelton certainly are. Just a quick one on Rubo by Air Chief Marshal, and for the pedigree fans around us, he's only had one chaser from 8 runners that has gone on and won. So, and that's a pretty low level horse for Seamus Mullins. So, Rubo trying to fly the flag for a sire that's not known for this kind of horse. So we'll see how he gets on. Good luck to that team. So there's a tentative selection there for Touch Me Not for Ross. TC Loda Sud, he was super at Cheltenham, wasn't he? And I'm interested in sort of the lengths gained and the data around him. There's a data point that shows that the lengths gained jumping at Cheltenham, a cumulative measurement of 2.68, and that's a huge amount considering most horses, they jump economically, but he was really gaining lengths at his fences. So he's obviously a very big talent. Are you scared of these Irish horses against him?
No, I'm not. I think Loda Sud's a good thing here, and I'm not afraid to say it. Usually I wouldn't go in so confident with statements like that, just purely because it leaves you hanging out to dry on podcasts like this. But the Irish horses, I don't think are much, to be honest. Touch Me Not was well down the pecking order last year as a hurdler. And as Ross said, his chasing form, or at least his ability over fences, looks to be higher. That being said, is it high enough to trouble Loda Sud? I don't think so. Rubo, great horse, very much a flat track bully in my opinion. Over hurdles, got lots of speed, goes from the front, quickens, and horses just can't catch up to him. He may be as good or better over fences, but I don't think this kind of scenario will suit him, albeit the small field is in his favour. Down memory lane, I suppose, is very interesting purely because he's unexposed, lightly raced, represents leading connections with JP McManus as well. I just don't really know about him. Like, is he good? I don't know. He's won a bumper, a maiden hurdle, and a beginner's chase. What have we got there to suggest he's good enough to beat Loda Sud? Nothing really. It's just reputation and connections. He's yet to take that step forward, and he's kind of priced up a little bit on potential. I mean, Rubo has obviously achieved a lot more than Down Memory Lane, yet Down Memory Lane is a lot shorter. So you can say that he's a bad value bet, albeit I'm sure there'll be plenty of people rushing in to bet him because of Jake McManus and Gordon Elliott. I just think Loda Sud is way the horse to beat. I mean, slick jumper. He's a novice, but he doesn't jump like one. He's a smooth traveller. He's fit as a flea. He's proven ability over hurdles last year in a couple of very good handicaps, as well as last time at Cheltenham. And as you say, that jumping display, where he was a short price, but I was confident on the podcast going into that race that he would win, he jumped impeccably. Like, it was a brilliant jumping display. Harry and Dan Skelton, they have this knack of getting all of their novices to jump like that. And if Loda Sud does that again, he's as fluent, I don't think anything's beating him.
Okay, Loda Sud for TC, confident selection there. That's one of the races at Sandown where there is a short price favourite. We're going to move swiftly into the other big chase of the day. It's the Tingle Creek, the Grade 1 over that minimum trip. And again, you've got a short price favourite. You've got last year's winner, Jonbon, 15-8 on, but he is taking on a horse that's stepped out of Novice Chase company into open company in good style on his first round for Henry de Bromhead, and that is the Irish Challenger Quilexios. He's 6-1. A winner from a couple of years ago, the admirable Edward Stone 7-1, JPR 112s, Boot Hill 14-1, bigger prices for the rest of them. Similar kind of question, I suppose, Ross. You know, you've got a British Hope who we know does well, you know, especially at Sandown. He probably was a little bit, it was probably labouring, wasn't he, to win at Cheltenham last time, Jonbon, but we know how well and effective he is at Sandown. Does he have a proper threat here in this Irish Challenger Quilexios?
No, not in the form of Calixios, I don't think. I think he's a very hard horse to get a grasp of. You look at his form pattern last year, he sort of ran at Nace and looked really good and then did nothing really in deeper races. And I think people got carried away by the fact that he beat Marine Nationale last time. And the jury would be out big time on that horse for me in terms of, you know, whether he's still quite the horse he looked like being. I don't think Jonbon did look laboured last time. I think that's a bit mean on old Jonbon. I thought he just looked very professional, controlled it. I thought Nico didn't use an ounce of petrol more than he needed to use. And you got to contrast that with his performance in the Sure last year, where I think they were trying to find out what he was. Was he an out-and-out two-miler? Were they stepping up in trips? So they went very hard last year. They seem to have convinced themselves, for right or for wrong, that 2 miles is his trip. So they were always, or they said they were always going Schlur, Tingle Creek. Nothing else was coming into the equation. And I wish they'd put the King George in the equation because I think it would be interesting. But I think it was just very much the archetypal prep race just did enough. And that meant slow early fractions meant that lesser horses were able to stay close to him for longer. I think he'll win this. He'll be the first horse to go back-to-back since Kauto Star. So that tells you that it's not easy to do because plenty of them have tried it. He's 2-1 on with SBK. If you're doing your ACCAs, you want to put him in. For me, it's a race you don't have to have a bet in if you know to enjoy it. If I was going to have a bet, I'd have an each way bet. If the ground stays on the good side and that 5 to 10 mils rain doesn't get into the ground, and you know if you're watching it, be careful because the hurdle track will ride different to the chase track. I think JPR1 is a seriously underestimated horse. He gave nowhere near his running in the Arkle last year. Prior to that, he showed some really good form. I think he should have won the Henry VIII Chase. He made a bad mistake, and that bottomed him. Le Patron won that time. But he's definitely better on a sounder surface. He was really impressive in the Helm Gold Cup, I thought. I mean, he just absolutely cantered through that race. People made a fuss about JLo finishing fast, but JLo did well to get as close as he did, I think. So he's 12-1. If the ground stays on the decent side, I'd perhaps have a little bit each way on him because I think Edward Stone and Calixios are eminently beatable if Jonbon isn't. And if the ground went a bit softer, I like Master Chew with Harry Cobden booked. I think this is a horse made for Harry Cobden. He's a really sound jumper if you're positive on him and you get him organised. He had some pretty decent form last year. And his return at Ascot, he only finished third, but he's beaten 3.5 lengths by Martator, trying to give that horse £20. Martator's now rated 151, having absolutely waltzed up next time out as well. That form doesn't read too bad. I think he's a better horse than we've seen so far. He got messed around a bit with jockey changes and races didn't work out for him last year, so he's still a horse that's on my radar. So those would be the two, both 7-year-olds, both still with an upside each way. But I think for me, it's really a race to just watch Jonbon do his thing.
Yeah, it's an 8-runner race, so you've got each way value here, 12-1 for JPR1, Master Chewy at 20-1. Just keep an eye on the ground, as Ross says. TC, is there anything any of these horses have in their locker to be able to really go after Jonbon and show them that, you know, they've got what it takes to beat him? Because he's brilliant around Sandown. Something about it seems to really bring out the best in him. He likes to attack the fences there. Can anything sort of really match him?
Probably not. That being said, I don't think he's an absolute banker. He's a very good horse. Obviously, I don't really need to say that. Everyone knows Jonbon is a very good horse. He deserves to be the overwhelming favourite at 8-15, 1-2. That's probably a fair price given what he's done so far in his career and his rating, etc. However, he was a touch underwhelming, for my opinion, in the Schlur at Cheltenham. I thought he got the run of the race. He probably should have quickened on up the hill and beaten Edwardstone and Boot Hill by a little bit further than he did. And I understand that maybe it wasn't his A-plus game that day and he could produce that in the Tingle Creek. But at the same time, do I want to bet him at 1-2? No. And do I think he's a banker? Probably not. I wouldn't be surprised if a horse beat him, although I do expect Jonbon to win. Because there are 8 runners, and this is a brilliant each-way betting race from the market perspective, and I don't think Jonbon's an absolute certainty, this is a good race to have a punt in, an each-way punt in, I believe. So I am going to play JPR1. It seems like Ross and I are singing off the same hymn sheet here, and it's very much the case that we do need the ground to be more on the good side than on the soft side. Fortunately, it looks like we actually read the same weather forecast this week. I saw 5 mils, so I believe that's absolutely fine for JPR1. He was very good in the Howden Gold Cup, and I could keep saying everything that Ross already said, but there's a lot of upside for JPR1. And given Edwardstone's probably on the decline, Calixios, Henry de Bromhead's horses seem to be performing extremely well first time up and then just falling off a cliff. And it happened last year as well until the spring. So I wouldn't be surprised if he took a step back as well. And that could just provide a little gap for JPR1 to fill second if Jonbon produces his best, or even maybe trouble Jonbon if he's a little bit underwhelming again.
Okay, interesting. Great to have the Irish Challenger, but it feels like if it's not necessarily him that we should be looking towards. There's some others in here. So a good each-way betting race, at least that JPR1, both Ross and TC on Weather Watch, but an intriguing contender at a good price. More good prices can be found at Aintree, where we've got a great card. We've got the Becher Handicap Chase, 3 mile 2 furlong, very different weather conditions where you are in the country. It's soft ground, there's been a lot of rain, more up in the north and more midland areas. So soft ground, and that could continue falling, the rain. So that could change the complexion of this race and make it a real war of attrition and a staying contest. Gaburio is 7-2 here for this race for Henry Brook, Oliver Greenall and Josh Guerrero. We've got Chianti Classico with a massive weight, 12 stone on his back. Great to see a horse of this caliber again in a handicap, as he was on his reappearance run. He's 4-1. King Turgeon looking for the hat trick for a trainer who knows how to win this race, and David Pipe is 4-1. Cruise Control 7s. Iron Bridge is 8-1. Celebra de Allen 10-1. And bigger prices for the rest of them. I don't know about you, Ross. I like this race. I think there's some. It's a good quality handicap chase with some proper stayers. You've got all age ranges. You've got horses that probably could be, pitching around in more graded company, and it could be a real proper test. Now, there was a big outsider, a bit of a shock winner last year, but in Chambard at 18-1. He's in this again. You look through the years gone by, you need to have at least 11 stone or less on your back. So it might be a tough task for some of these highly rated horses, but is it a better race than we've seen in some time?
Well, I think Chianti Classico is undoubtedly a better horse on an upward trajectory. We get classy horses on a downward trajectory contesting this. He's clearly a horse going places. So yeah, it is a really exciting race, but I don't like it because I said after I went against Chianti Classico at Ascot, having followed him since novice hurdle days, and said I would never again go against him. But I just can't quite believe he's going to lump 12 stone on soft ground, giving weight away to some of these round Aintree. I mean, I'd love to see it, and I think it's a brave call by Kim Bailey. It'd been very easy for them to, when Cocoa Beach came out, not declared him and said we're not lumping top weight, but they've gone for it. He's a bit short, but I like Gabriel here for the Greenall and Guerrero yard. I thought he was a real eye catcher in the Grand Sefton last time. He wasn't making massive inroads on the winner, King Turgeon, but King Turgeon travelled through that race brilliantly. Gabriel was dropping back in trip. He's a 4 mile plus Hunter Chase winner at Cheltenham on soft ground. He won at Cartman on desperate ground over an early 3 mile 2. He was dropping back there in trip. He was off the bridle from some way out, and he just kept on coming. He never got further behind. And then in the last 50 yards, I felt he was really starting to pick up again. He gets a £2 pull at the weight for King Turgeon for 4 lengths. I mean, that's barely worth mentioning, but it's something. But for me, I just think the step up in trip is going to really help. And the yard are in much better form. They were struggling for winners when the Grand Sefton was taking place. They're now up to 19%. They're having very regular winners, and they seem to be hitting the mark, particularly with horses that are well found in the market. So perhaps watch the market for him. Henry Brook, I think, is a really solid jockey over these fences. So I liked him a lot. The other one, a bigger price, was Major Dundee, who's just £1 now above his last winning mark, which was the Midlands Grand National 2023. That was on desperate ground over a stamina trip. You got an £8 rise for that, and that made life very, very tough indeed. His final start last year, don't think he was completely finished with when unseating his jockey 2 out, or his jockey falling off him 2 out, to probably be more adept in the Ida. He was off the bridle, but he's a dour stay. He was definitely going to stick on. I think he would have hit the frame. That was off a mark of 132. He stays all day. He'll cope with the ground. He has got a horrible tendency to rub a fence, but I think we are all in agreement that these fences can take a rub these days, where they never used to be able to. So Alan King going along pretty well. I thought Major Dundee at 25-1 with SBK was a decent price as well.
Yeah, and Sam Twiston-Davies coming in for the ride. I'm just checking, going through. Never ridden the horse before, but he's Sammy's kind of jockey that will really just go out and make sure that he can go and enjoy himself, get himself into a good rhythm, riding very well at the moment. Major Dundee, another horse that, because of the appearance of Chianti Classico in this race, they're all on quite nice weights in here. So 10 stone 2 for a horse rated 131, and all the horses sort of in that 130 to 140, mid 140 bracket do have quite a nice racing weight, which is a big positive. Okay, thanks to Ross. So looking for this race, Gabriel and Major Dundee, TC trend suggests, and I'm sure that you'll have a look at these, that you need to, as I say, be in that sort of mid 130 to 140 bracket. Chianti Classico does not fall into many of the trends. It's going to be a real one for the ages if he can do it. I've been a long-term fan of his. I know that we all have been on this podcast. What do you see of him? Ross is not certain about his appearance in here. How do you feel about him rocking up and trying to take on a Becher with all this weight?
I like him in this spot. Kim Bailey has said that he's going to go to the Grand National this year, and that's the plan. So, firstly, I like the fact they're running in the Becher, giving him that experience of the course. As Ross said, it's not the same test it used to be, but still, I like that they're running here. It gives him that good sighter. Secondly, he won the Sodexo Gold Cup last time carrying 12 stone, so the weight by itself is no problem. He's a little horse, but we know that he can carry welter burdens on his back and still produce his A game, so that's not an issue for me. The trends, yes, I completely agree with that. But also, we've had plenty of renewals, especially over the last 10 years, where there haven't been any classy horses in there rated 150 or higher. And then even in those races where we have seen the 150 pluses, they're always Gordon Elliott, Jigginstown horses who are past their best. And that's why we just haven't seen any of them win. I mean, Cocoa Beach, who's been pretty poor so far this season, he ran in it last year, I think, and carried 11 stone 10. And every other horse in the race was sub 11 stone. You go back and there's Alfred as Oboe, a similar scenario there. So yes, the trends dictate. They say that you can't carry a big weight to win, or you can't be above this rating, but we don't have that big a sample size. I feel like you need to dig a little bit deeper if you want to use that trend, because Chianti Classico is basically a horse that we haven't seen, or has a profile of a horse that we haven't really seen in this race for a long period of time. Now, maybe he wants good to soft ground and not soft ground. He can handle soft. He's already won on soft before, but he's a very good jumper. And when it's the ground's a little bit better, he flies over his fences, whereas others may not jump as well. So I understand that point of view, but I just think Chianti Classico's on the up. He could still be better than a 157 horse. I was impressed with him last time. He's definitely the class angler in the race. And although I respect Gaborio and I respect King Turgeon, who I put up in the Sefton, they are kind of much of a muchness. I don't think they're that classy. And with Chianti Classico in there, I know he's carrying a lot more, but when you have that class difference, it could be the main angle to see why Chianti Classico will win. I don't necessarily think there's great value at the top of the market, I have to admit, but the most logical winner, in my opinion, is Chianti Classico.
Okay, yeah, and Chianti Classico now the ride of Johnny Burke, and we know David Bass no longer joined up with Kim Bailey, so Johnny Burke available for Chianti Classico, a great opportunity for him. I think he's a wonderful horse, and as I say, I think it's a really old-fashioned route to the Grand National, and it's certainly a positive to see horses, just try out. We saw this. You hear it many times. The likes of David Ellsworth say you've got to give these horses in this kind of if they've got the class to give it a go, and it does make for a brilliant race. And to think he's only 7, he's got so much going for him. So I think full credit to the team to try this out on their march towards the Grand National. So confidence behind Chianti Classico for TC, and we're going to go back to TC for our naps and next best, because landed one with Sergino last week, and also the Dan Skelton runner. We have had flat racing back this week, though, and I'm sure you've been thrilled to see Lingfield appearing on the screen at 11 o'clock every morning. There's Wolverhampton on Saturday night, but have we, TC, have we swung you into the direction of National Hunt Racing, and are you committed to find one for a nap and next best for us in this division?
I'm covering Wolverhampton on Sky Sports Racing. It is not good. I don't want to subject the viewers of the SBK podcast to have a bet there. And also, I haven't kind of done 100% of my work on Wolves yet, so I didn't want to put up a selection. So yes, two jumps picks. Have to admit, the second one, the next best, is already a horse we talked about. I didn't think there were too many options across the jumps racing. It is good in terms of quality, but I didn't think there were great punting opportunities, in my opinion. Obviously, that can differ person to person. Nevertheless, my nap comes in the 212 at Chepstow, and it's a horse called Marlin for trainer Mel Rowley and Shane Quinlan, who takes off £3, I believe. I'm a little bit worried that he's not going to fire first time up, purely because he was a little bit rusty on his rules debut last year. He didn't win on his point-to-point debut first time up either, so he's not got an amazing record fresh, albeit it's a very small sample, and he's coming off a 235-day break this time. That being said, last season, he caught my eye on numerous occasions. Firstly, they were running over inadequate trips on 3 of his 5 runs. Anything sub 3 miles was just way too short for him. You could tell he was galloping on at the 1 speed and staying on nicely, but just outpointed by a horse with better acceleration in those events. When they went over 3 miles on the final start, he was very good. And albeit it looks like he's being scrubbed along in the home straight that day, that's how Marlin kind of runs. He has that 1 speed. He keeps plodding away. But he won head in chest. There was a lot more in the tank. And I like him off this mark of 1-2-1. I think he's very well handicapped if he can fire first up. He was a steady improver, as I say. But this year, I feel like Marlin could take big jumps forward if he can take the fence as well. So I'm going to take Marlin as my nap in the 212 at Chepstow. Hopefully he'll win first time up this year. The next best, not going to be any price. It's going to be Lotus Sud, the horse we've already talked about at Sandown. He runs in the 150. I just think he's a good thing. So I'll put him up as my next best. Hopefully get a winner there. And fingers crossed Marlin can enhance that and go 2 from 2 in this section.
Okay, thank you, Marland and Lotus Sud for TC. Ross, over to you. What do you like this weekend?
Well, I have gone to... No, I haven't gone to Wolves. I've gone 2 from Sandown, and it's a Paul Nicholls and Harry Cobden fest for me. Broken Halo in the 3:35, the final race of the day. I am absolutely convinced he was going to dot up in this last year. He was the only one travelling with any real enthusiasm, coming to 2 out, and inexplicably landed up on his nose and got rid of Lorcan Williams. And his season fell apart from there on in. Having been a horse who was a pretty sound jumper, he all of a sudden discovered a talent for making jumping errors. A lot of the time under amateur jockeys in those military races around this track, because he does go well at this track. But he belatedly won at Taunton on his final or his penultimate start of the year, instantly under Harry Cobden, off this mark. Then went to the Scottish National and never really got into it, got too far back, never really run a race. He returns first start after wind surgery on the same mark he won off at Taunton with Harry Cobden on board. I think that's crucial. He likes soft ground. He's a dour stayer. He clearly goes well at this track. So Broken Halo in the 3:35 is the nap. And then the next best is also, as I said, Paul Nicholls, Harry Cobden in the 12:40, Larchmont Lass. Harry Cobden gave her a tremendous ride to win on her on a seasonal return at Wincanton. That was over 2 mile, 5.5 furlongs on good ground. She drops back in trip, but she's going to get more of a stamina test here because the hurdles track is going to ride testing over 2 mile 4. And the fact that she only got up in the closing strides under fierce driving means she only went up £4. I'd be surprised she didn't step forward for that. That Wincanton meeting was where Paul Nicholls really suddenly hit gear. I think he had 4, maybe 5 winners, had a few winners the day before. I think she'll step forward for that. She's got really good bumper form at this track on heavy ground, where again, she stayed on really dourly on heavy ground to win her bumper there. I think she's a mare on the upgrade. And yes, she only just scraped home last time, but I think she'll take a lot from that and she'll step forward again here and take all the beating in the 12:40.
Okay, thanks, Ross. Broken Halo and Larchmont Lass for you. I'm really hoping that this Paul Nicholls, Harry Cobden theme can continue, because that's one of their horses is running at Sandown that I'm putting up as my nap in the 2:25, Cabral du Mathan, in a handicap hurdle, which is filled with horses that look slightly regressive. There is Will Mount in there, who we haven't seen since running a bit of a shocker in that in the Grade 1 at Newbury last year as a novice. But this horse, Cabral de Mathan, just a 4-year-old, rated 131. Paul Nicholls, I heard recently saying that there aren't that many options for him, so he's trying him out in this kind of company. He looks very progressive, and he probably will be suited by a stronger run race, which he's likely to get here. It will be a test for him, but he's up against horses that have a lot of question marks and don't really seem to be at the level that they probably once were. So I'm happy to see how Cabral du Mathan does in this company. So that's in the 225 at Sandown. And then back to the Becher, the 207 at Aintree. I'm going to go for the old boy, the 12-year-old Celebre d'Allen, at a good each way price. He's a horse that has got great form running around Aintree. As the record reads 8-1-4-4, but the 2-4s come in races over these Grand National fences. He was quite a tired fourth in the race last year, but that was on very heavy ground. So I think this slightly better ground will suit him well. He was a good winner at Bangor on his reappearance run under Callum Pritchard, showing still signs of life and enthusiasm. They don't run him a huge amount. They do well to give him a good bit of break over the course of the season, just to make certain that he get the best out of him. Philip Hobbs and Johnson White have had a good beginning to the season, and I think he just represent a good value bet at the each way chance. So those is a pretty good comprehensive look at the weekend's racing for you. As we said at the start of the podcast, 20% ACCA boost from SBK across all UK racing on Saturday. It is a minimum of 4 selections and will require the use to opt in, but I think we've definitely given you at least 4 selections to use for that offer. Don't forget, all new SBK users get £40 in free bets when you sign up and bet £10 for the first time. Make sure to head to SBK for lots of other offers and promotions throughout the weekend. Thank you to TC and Ross. All the best for the weekend, and we'll see you next week.